guys, welcome back. Alex here from Again Therapy, and a while back I've created a post regarding me upgrading my system with an RTX 5090, and I promised to have a follow-up with a video, so here we are. And basically the plan is to upgrade my current GPU, the 2080 Ti, with a 5090, which is a pretty significant upgrade given the fact that they are 3 generations apart. And the main reason I have even considered making this upgrade is because I can see and mostly hear the 2080 Ti struggling with modern titles. And I also try to upload videos in a 4K resolution, which is becoming a challenge as time goes on. Now, that aside, upgrading your hardware means you will start disassembling parts of your build, and it gives you the opportunity to clean your case. And I'll admit that I neglected my case for a few months, so it's going to be pretty dirty, but I'll clean it up as we move forward. And first things first, cleaning the filters is what I'm going to hit right away. After that, cleaning the case, and of course don't forget to clean the fans themselves, which is something that might prolong their lifespan. Now, if you want to take the extra step, you could always disassemble your fans and clean them, but a word of advice: don't do it with running water, because you might damage the bearings of the fans. That aside, I obviously need to disconnect the 2080 Ti and try sizing up the 5090 and see if any changes need to be done within the case. But to do so, we need to unbox the 5090. And while I open it, you can see the sheer size of this bad boy. And it feels like Nvidia is going way off the rails when it comes to size from generation to generation. Because if you recall, there was a significant size up from the 20 series to the 30 series, and then the 40 series were just these humongous monsters, and now we have the 50 series, which didn't make things better. Which is why you will find a support stand inside the box, because this thing is super heavy. Along with that, there is a power cable that can be used with 8-pin cables from your power supply as extensions. And for the sake of comparison, let's just put the cards next to each other and see how much they differentiate from one another. So keep in mind that the 5090 is bigger in pretty much every dimension there is. It's like the guy she tells you not to worry about. It's both longer horizontally, thicker vertically, and to add insult to injury, wider as well. So the next thing that I need to do is, like I said, size the card up and try to understand what we're dealing with. And as you can see, this tube over here is in the way of the PCI Express socket. So we need to come up with a way to get past the card and get all the way to the pump. So we need to disassemble the tube, but first drain all the coolant, and if you're wondering what kind of coolant I'm running, it's the Coolant's 702. I had it for about 7 years, didn't have any problems whatsoever, and the Threadripper was always cool and didn't have any heat spikes whatsoever. But I did flush the system once after about 3 or 4 years and it felt unnecessary. But on the other hand, maintaining your system is very important. Now, after disassembling the tube, I want to place the GPU in its rightful place and have a sense of how to bend the missing tube. In this case, I cannot go along with the length of the 5090 because then I'll have little room to maneuver towards the pump. So I could either go in front of the card, which might get a bit messy, especially if I'll try to disassemble the card, or the other route I can go is between the GPU and the wall of the case, which might make it look much more aesthetically appealing as well. Now, for the process of bending the tube, I'll get my trusty bending kit, and I also bought 2 meters of non-branded acrylic tube just in case something goes wrong. And the reason you might want to get non-branded tubes is because you're just paying extra for the brand. You also want to smooth the edges of the tubes, or else the tube itself will damage the sealing O-ring that is supposed to prevent leaks. Now, for the process of actually bending the tubes, you might want to equip yourself with a heat gun. Theoretically, you can do it with a flame. I actually built the current loop using fire, but you should be super careful with it because it can cause bubbling in no time if you'll be careless. As for the number of bends I need to do on the tube itself, I believe I'll need about 3 bends, and one of them is probably going to be a complicated one. Anyways, this is the final result of the tube, but before installing it, the best thing we can do is sort of insure ourselves from leaks, and we can achieve it by applying a sealing thread on the fittings. But a word of advice, you shouldn't apply too much of it because the fitting itself could snap while applying pressure when you're closing the fitting. That said, there are a couple of tests we want to perform before putting everything back together. The first one is a short-term leak test, and the second one is a long-term leak test. As the name suggests, the short-term test is when you inspect the whole loop once the liquid runs through all the components. So let it run for about 5 minutes and inspect all the weak points of the loop. The long-term leak test is basically letting your pump run for about 24 or even 48 hours from my personal experience and inspecting for leaks. Just to let you know that after I assembled my first loop, it leaked after about 40 hours, so try to be patient with it. Being hasty will not help you here whatsoever. And this is the final result before I picked the right colors for it. But if that's all there is to it, why doesn't the video end here? Well, so what really happened after all this work? Well, apparently, even though the 5090 is supposed to work with PCI Express 3, not all motherboards and CPUs can handle it, and I guess my Threadripper couldn't keep up with it. Long story short, I fire up the PC, things work perfectly fine for about an hour. I decided to update my driver for the 5090 and everything just froze. I tried pretty much every solution out there, including the DDU or resetting my system, but ended up with the conclusion that I gotta upgrade my whole system. So...
oh shit, here we go again.
It's time to build everything from scratch. So yeah, since I already went with the 5090, I might as well go balls to the wall and get myself high-end components. So I already owned an Aorus Mobile before, which is why I chose them again. For those of you who like a colorful RGB board, this one is not for you. As for the CPU, I got myself the 9950X3D, which should cover all my needs, and a total of 64 gigs of RAM from Kingston. And I don't know why someone would need more than that, because this could turn into a money pit in no time. I used to have the HyperX RAM in my previous build and I never had a problem with them. And for those of you who wonder, Kingston and HyperX are basically the same thing. Now I didn't go big on cooling because I want to put the CPU on water, so until the water block arrives, I'll stick with it and try not to overheat the CPU. But everything I said so far also means I have to say goodbye to my old components. So with a heavy heart, and it's kind of depressing because I worked really hard on building it and it was also my first custom looped system that I built myself. And even though I could rebuild everything on the other side of the case, I have to be realistic here and acknowledge the fact that it won't have too much of a use. So with a great sorrow, I'm going to have to put it away, at least for now. So after putting everything together, you can already see why this case is meant for water cooling. Even with the gigantic 5090 in it, the case looks empty. But putting the pump with the reservoir is already filling it up somewhat. And the only thing that is left to do is wait for the water block to arrive and build a completely new loop. But until then, enjoy your game therapy.